Pooh. What up? How's it going? I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for asking. So, at the request of a good friend of mine, I'm going to do something I don't really do very often, actually. I don't really do reacts as much. I mean, other people love doing react videos, right? It's literally just like sitting in front of something that somebody else made, talking shit. And I love talking shit. I mean, I'm the least qualified person out of anyone I know to have any room to be talking shit. But nevertheless, it's human nature. I love doing it anyway. So without further ado, fuck it, why not? I've been meaning to get into watching VaatiVidya's stuff on Elden Ring anyway. And he recently came out with a really comprehensive and in-depth look at some of the information that we've gotten from Miyazaki. So, why not watch this and see what all the fuss is about? All right, bring this shit to full screen. Hell yeah, there we go. And go ahead and press play once I get the volume up. All right, action.
Miyazaki just did a bunch of interviews, and we learned a lot of really significant things. For example, see this weapon art? Turns out it's not specific to this weapon.
You can put weapon arts on any weapon.
Weapon arts to multiple
Yeah,
weapons.
yeah.
See this pot boy? You might be able to capture enemies like this and then summon them as spirit helpers that fight alongside you.
Oh shit, that's
Bosses
tight.
can supposedly be tackled in any order.
See, I was wondering about that. I'd read something about bosses being able to be tackled in any order, and I was thinking, like, maybe if you could go to any part of the game at any time, at any level, can you fight any boss in any order? And then do the bosses scale in difficulty? Like, do the leveling or the levels for the bosses scale up from whatever level 1 all the way up to like max level, regardless of what order you fight them in? I mean, as soon as we get more answers, I guess we'll have like definitive um, proof of yes or no. But these are all questions that have been coming up just thinking about the game.
We now know a lot about which parts of the story were written by George R.R. Martin, and
That's cool.
multiplayer is supposed to be more convenient than ever before.
And
Elden
multiplayer's
Ring
always
news has
been fucked
really only
up.
just begun, so please subscribe and keep up with it all. For the purposes of this video, though, I've split the information into 4 categories: gameplay, the open world, multiplayer, and story.
Sick.
Let's begin with gameplay.
All right.
So Elden Ring will see the return of the stamina bar, though Miyazaki
All right,
notes
cool.
that he feels like it has less influence on the player overall compared to previous games. It sounds like it's going to be closest to Bloodborne, though, where stamina can stop you from spamming actions up to a certain point, but still allows for really fast-paced gameplay.
That's
I've
good.
obviously learnt a lot from
I like stamina.
Sekiro most recently, and like Sekiro, Elden Ring also has an implementation of stealth. You can crouch to sneak up on enemies, bypass certain areas, or simply assess situations.
Hold up. Go back. So this dude is fully crouched at this point. So there's actual like sneaking elements a la Sekiro involved in Elden Ring. That's really neat. I'm glad that they implemented that.
You can crouch to sneak up on enemies, bypass certain areas, or
That's
simply
really
assess
cool.
situations while hiding in long grass.
So playstyles are more varied in the sense that you can also take things from like a more silent approach.
Decreased, and some scary enemies will only appear at night as well.
So like archer builds, if you have stealth as one of the main options for your gameplay, archer builds are way more valuable now because you can sneak around and like take pot shots at enemies from long distances. Maybe if you're in stealth, get like some sort of damage buff to your arrows and like enhancing their damage and maybe even one-shotting enemies. That sounds really cool.
Elden Ring now also has a jump button, allowing you to avoid sweeping attacks and perform jump attacks that differ based on the weapon you wield.
There's a jump
Furthermore,
button?
fall damage has been
Fuck.
greatly reduced to encourage your
No fall
damage.
damage. Oh, hell
And
yeah.
unlike any game before it, Elden Ring has horseback combat, although Miyazaki stresses that most battles will still be done on foot, except for certain fights where you might need that extra
Mountain Blade?
mobility. But the newest and most fascinating addition to Elden Ring's gameplay, in my opinion, are summonable spirits. So, as seen briefly in the trailer, these are enemy-based spirits that fight alongside you, and they
Whoa.
fulfill certain roles, like tanking for you.
Bro, when I first saw this footage and I was watching this archer like roll around and do rolling attacks with his bow, I thought those blue things were other players that he summoned into his world. I didn't know those blue things were summonable enemies that you can like basically necromancer create out of nothing and have as minions. Can you make a minion master build? Dude, can I be a necromancer in Dark Souls? This is sick.
Or
This game is
attacking
sick.
from range, or assisting you in melee.
Holy
So
shit.
to be leveled
This
up,
footage, this is the rolling attack with the bow,
customized.
which
And
is sick
Miyazaki
in and of
says
itself. Just the fact that you're able to do that makes archery way more viable. But at the same time, like having a companion that's summonable that can deal with the melee combat, short range battle while you're like being an archer and shit from long range, that's awesome.
everywhere, but they are something that you're apparently supposed to consider as a part of your build, similar to how you pick up a weapon and upgrade
You
them.
can pick up
And
weapons, you
like
can pick up
weapons,
enemies,
who you
that's so
choose to summon
cool.
will also come down to personal taste. Miyazaki himself says that players might often enjoy a certain enemy tagging along with them, even if they're not much use
Aesthetically.
in combat.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I choose you.
Even if
It's
they just
funny,
look cool.
Ever since I saw Father Owl summon a bird that defends him, I thought this would make a good addition to the game, and it's crazy that it's actually a
Fucking
thing.
Sekiro
In
spoilers.
fact, you literally see a character summon
I didn't
a
see
bird
that.
here. So spirits having these specific roles and unique animations is so much better than just having a human NPC following you around awkwardly,
Man, that's so
like in
cool.
Dark Souls. Overall though, Elden Ring is probably closest to Dark Souls in terms of gameplay and combat. This is what was expected. What I
Damn.
didn't expect was how deep they're going with build customization, because in addition to magic, weapons, armor, and spirit summons now, you also have skills. So in Dark Souls, every weapon had a different weapon art, special attacks.
Yeah, but you had to use like
activated
blue
in
stuff
level 2.
sometimes.
Sekiro also had combat arts, which you could equip to your character.
Weapon arts suck.
Perform
I don't like
by
weapon
hitting
arts.
L1 and R1.
Damn,
Neither of
Sekiro
these things
spoilers.
were a huge success gameplay-wise, but now in Elden Ring we have skills, which are kind of a combination of weapon arts and combat arts. So there are around 100 skills in total, apparently, and they can be freely assigned to a large variety of weapons.
There's around 100,
So, you see
okay.
this jump back slash the character is doing with the curved sword? If you liked the skill, but not the sword, then you could assign this skill to a different weapon. This alone is an insane amount of build variety.
Yeah.
PvP players are going to love this, and it's going to help to fill the open world with discoverable abilities. The open world is also
It's gonna help
filled
people
with
feel like
crafted
they have a unique
materials
character too.
you can search for and use to create the items you need the most.
It's not just like
Sort of
fucking build strength, build dex, build whatever the int equivalent is, like arcane or whatever, like build magic. You can just do what you want with your character and go in whatever direction you want from the beginning of the game. So I'm really excited to see what that entails, how that's going to work. I mean, mechanically, I don't have any guesses other than like scaling enemies and stuff, what that might look like. But it's going to be really cool once they release some more information about what that looks like.
One of these, says Miyazaki, will be healing items, which will be necessary, he says, since you might find yourself fighting for a longer time between checkpoints than
That's
previous
good.
games.
I like
Of
that.
course, all this experience you get from fighting can also be used to level up your character.
You got to hold
So,
souls for
between
longer. That's cool.
skills, spirit summons, weapons, magic, armor, consumables, and
I hope there's a lot of
materials,
armor too.
you're going to have a ton of tools at your disposal to take on the world. But one thing to consider is that I feel like all of this is going to affect the difficulty of the game, specifically its skill floor. So Something like Sekiro, for example, had
I think it's going to be
very
easy.
high skill floor.
Yeah.
In order to progress
This
in
game
the
is not going to be
you
hard.
literally needed to have the mechanical skill to overcome certain fights. In that game, you can't rely on leveling up your
That's
character
Ishin,
or
right?
using
More
tools that the
spoilers.
boss is weak to.
That's
The
inner
Ring,
Ishin.
on the
Okay,
other
I kind of
hand,
heard about
will
that
offer ways
from a
in-game
friend of mine.
to overcome difficulty. It's just like Dark Souls in that regard. This isn't a bad thing, it just means that if you're lacking a bit of the mechanical skill, difficulty can also be overcome with preparation, cooperation, and exploration as well.
And summons,
While
apparently.
exploring the massive world, you'll also have access to a world map, which you can consult
There's a map?
to see where you are.
Damn, I didn't even know there was a map.
Where you've yet to go.
That's
This map
sick.
will work in the open world, but apparently not in the smaller spaces.
Oh, there's no local map like in
These
Fallout
legacy dungeons
or
are
Skyrim.
said to be more akin to what we're used to in Dark Souls, and each open world will have its own main dungeon, as well as catacombs, camps, and fortresses
Damn.
dispersed throughout the open world. There are 6 open worlds that will be explored.
Okay, there's 6.
Each is going to be the domain
I thought there was
of
8.
God characters that we'll discuss in a different video. Altogether though, these areas are called the Lands Between, and they're arranged in such a way that there is a logical progression to these open worlds, although you don't have to follow it.
Okay, so that answers my question. You don't have to follow the logical order of the worlds that you can go to. There's 6 of them, not 8 of them. So you can go in any one of 6 directions at any level. There's no rhyme or reason that you have to follow other than like what they lay out for you if you want to. That's really cool. How they're going to make that accessible for the player, or if they're going to make that accessible, I don't know. Maybe one of them is just a high level area and you get fucked at level 1 when you go there too early, or maybe if you go to any one of them, it just scales to your level. I don't know how that's going to work. I'm really interested in figuring that out. But so far, it sounds really cool.
In fact, apparently you can skip more than half the game's bosses if you want to.
Oh, you can
That
skip
sense, the game
bosses?
sounds a lot more like Breath of the Wild.
Damn.
The main path is quite clear, but side paths are tempting to explore.
I'm not skipping bosses.
And according to Miyazaki,
That shit looks like Shadows of the Colossus. I'm fighting all the bosses.
Instead, it's up to the player to mark these things themselves.
All the bosses are getting
I
fucked,
feel like
okay?
it's fantastic for immersion. A little later in the game, the player will be able to access a hub area where you can branch into
Okay, so the hub area
six
isn't until
areas
later.
of the Lands Between. On
That's
top of
the
this,
intro.
fast travel is also present, though From Software say that they encourage users to enjoy the
The
exploration.
horse. Use the horse, bitch. We made this horse for a
Like in
reason.
all open world games, and like in Dark Souls as well, the more you discover, the more powerful your character becomes, and I'm sure that the
Look at that
difficulty
horse.
of a From
Look at that
Software
horse go
game
up the side of that
will be a good
mountain.
motivator
Hell yeah.
for
Jump off that
exploring the world,
horse.
and not just fast travel.
Hell yeah. I
This
can't
was a
wait.
problem I noticed in Ghost of Tsushima. At some point,
Ghost of
I became
Tsushima
so
gets
powerful that I
so
didn't want to
boring.
explore the game anymore. So I think that the skill of From Software in designing difficult areas will really help to motivate you too.
Bro, by the end of Ghost of Tsushima, I remember playing it on stream. By the end of it, you're so tough, you can literally just walk through entire hordes of enemies with no problem. And there's like a difficulty spike halfway through the game, but after that point, they don't start introducing like larger and larger waves of enemies. I'd assumed since my strength was going up exponentially, that at some point they would start sending like fucking Dynasty Warriors levels of dudes at you. But they never get to that point, so it feels like you're just way over leveled for everything by the end of the game. So much so that when I was actually fighting the final boss of Ghost of Tsushima, I just walked straight through the boss fight and I wondered if there was more and it was just over. So hopefully the Elden Ring doesn't have that problem where you're like, you get to a point where you're just so high level with so many souls that you're just shitting on everything. Hopefully things actually keep up with you in progression.
Explore a bit more. But From Software says that another motivator for exploring is going to be meeting NPCs around the world.
Oh, there's
Set
NPCs,
to
good.
add drama
I was wondering
to the
about
journey.
that.
They add
If there's going to be like a
twists
ton
to
of
the
like
narrative,
talking
and
NPCs
they
with
also
dialogue and like
influence the
quest
enemies.
lines and all that
According
shit.
to Miyazaki, the NPCs you meet will have a really big impact on the way you view the world and
What?
the story, because they'll reveal
Say
how
what?
they see the world and
Oh,
He even
I have
calls them
opinions.
protagonists and says that they're an extremely important part of Elden Ring, which,
That's so cool.
is certainly more than he said about NPCs in past games.
Yeah, NPCs in
For
past
all of
games are
these
just like
NPCs,
pushovers.
however, there will be no bustling towns or villages in Elden Ring compared to something like Breath of the Wild. This isn't their specialty, he says, so they've chosen to focus on other
I mean,
things,
why
like
would there
dungeons
be?
and level design and also character customization.
Right.
The
The point of Demon Souls games or Souls-like games is to feel like you're in a world that's falling apart anyway. You don't want to have like central hub areas for NPCs to live in, like villages, or you don't want to have like places where NPCs congregate because that makes it feel like there's some sort of structure in the middle of all this madness with all these bosses and enemies running around. You want to feel like you're in a world that just doesn't want you there, that doesn't like having normal, ordinary sized people in it. Like everything's trying to murder you, so that defeats the purpose. I'm glad that they decided not to do that and waste development resources on something that's really not necessary. It's better finding NPCs scattered throughout the world and talking to them in that like context rather than seeking them out in places like towns or villages where they're safe.
usual, fragmentary story presentation methods through item descriptions and dialogue are said to be expected, though the team also says that they're leveraging what they learned from Sekiro and
Hell
they'll
yeah.
be better able to present the surface plot through dialogue and cutscenes.
The jump
What
button
is
fucking
really
weirds me
said to be
out.
different
That's
this
crazy.
time is how the story of this game came to be written. In the past, Miyazaki says that he would set a game system and then write a story that matches that, but this time he says it was kind of the opposite.
Yeah, George R. R.
Upfront, he
Martin
laid the
already wrote
foundations
this.
of the story.
Yeah.
He came up with the mythos of the world, including the Tarnished and the 6 demigods, and then the team applied gameplay systems to suit that story. From Software said that they expected to have to leave out parts of the mythos to suit the game systems, but that luckily it ended up not being like that, and that their collaboration was a very fruitful one. Speaking of
I'm so
collaboration,
glad.
the developers are
This
aiming
game is
to
not
make it
even
easy
like
to
out yet.
accommodate.
I'm already
Firstly,
stoked.
you previously needed items like humanity or embers in order to participate in online play, but now this requirement has been either reduced or removed. Secondly, because the world is so vast now, special locations now exist where players can leave their signs and see who is currently available. Lastly, once you're sharing a world with someone, it seems like interface elements will be added to provide more information about other players in the world.
Oh,
And
thank
to
God.
enhance the connections that you have to those around you, something called groups are being added to the game. So once you
Wait.
join a group, you'll be able to single out the phantoms, the bloodstains, and the messages from other people in your group to connect on a more relatable level.
Hold on. So you're telling me that I can make my own faction? Like I can make my own followers of the sun? Like I could praise the sun with my sun bro homies just based on who's in my friend group? That's awesome. Or like I can make a PvP invasion group and we all invade and just fuck with people and we have our own like separate world. That's so cool. Dude, this sounds cooler and cooler the more I learn about
For
it.
example, I'll probably be able to set the password potboy, and you guys will be able to see and connect with other people who have chosen
Right, you can make your own Reddit communities and
experience.
shit like that.
On top of this, the game will also have covenants, which are said
Covenants,
to lead
okay,
to
so there are
multiplayer.
covenants at the
Something
top of the
like
group.
the Aldrich Faithful from Dark Souls 3, for example, where you roleplay as a defender of Aldrich.
Right.
This kind of thing is back in the game.
Okay,
And
cool.
PvP is also, of course, confirmed. It's even possible in these massive open fields, which is a nice surprise. That said though, Miyazaki said that you can't use your horse in the open field in PvP, which kind of confuses me because I can see how PvP might be awkward on horseback, but I don't understand how they're going to disable you from getting on your horse. It just seems
As soon as there's an invader, you
should
can't get on your horse.
Before you go, consider checking out the Elden Ring inspired merch I mentioned in the last video.
Yeah, man.
Check out the last video, which is
Check out VaatiVidya's merch. This dude's
of
cool and he has really cool videos.
And keep an eye out for a story video, which I think I'm going to work on next, because there's a lot of information on the story that I haven't covered, particularly on the official websites, and also about all the contextualization we can give to the first trailer that was released. So keep an eye out for that video, and I'll see you guys next time.
That's fucking tight. So mostly what I take away from this video so far is just like, we're gonna have single player open world Demon Souls or Dark Souls gameplay, which is like revolutionary just thinking about it. But the way that they execute it, especially having groups of people who are able to play online together and face these like open world bosses and enemies, these challenges together in ways that are more seamless than any other Souls-like game that we've seen in the past. Maybe even easier to play online than games that we've seen in the past. Just the idea of that sounds amazing. And all of the different skills and being able to switch skills between weapons and summons and all of this stuff, stealth especially, opening up new avenues and pathways for people to make like different and varied characters. Maybe in other games you wouldn't be able to viably use, or would be considered like a joke build. Um, all in all, I'm really looking forward to this game, and I can't wait to learn more about it. But that being said, man, I think that's all there is to find in this video. Maybe I'll watch another one of Vaati's videos in the future here. It's definitely time to play some video games though. So I'm going to take a quick 5 to 7, and then I'll come back and play some games and maybe talk more about Elden Ring. I'm really stoked to see what Elden Ring has in store for us, man. This game's going to be awesome. So yeah, be cool.